All right, Jeff, we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Lumen Project. It's another episode of our podcast called the Lumen Project. And stick with us here for a second while we're going to share this. We're going live during our podcast episode, Jeff. It's pretty cool.
Yes, indeed.
Brought to you by the modern world of technological levers and mechanisms. While you're sharing that out, I'll share mine in a second. I'm excited about the conversation of conscious masculinity. I'll give a quick shout out to Aaron Hendon, who shared that phrase with me this morning. Jeff and I had talked about healthy masculinity for the last couple months. But it's interesting to me that there's a whole conversation in the world called toxic masculinity. Like, people already seem to know what that is or have experience with it. They're like, oh yeah, I don't even know the definition, but I kind of get what that is. There isn't anything called conscious masculinity. Like, where the hell has that been? Why is that not a conversation we can have?
Yeah. You know? Yeah. I mean, that's what I was just saying. It's like, where does this does this exist? Or are we just inventing words now?
I think, yeah. And I think it's good to invent words around a conversation that matters. I mean, I think it's where, so first of all, what I would say is, I don't know what conscious masculinity is. So when we're saying the phrase, like, what is it? That's the title. Like, but I think that's what we're exploring in the Lumen Project. I think that's what we're exploring. What is it?
Yeah, I think we might be creating it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sure this is where, like, everything's been said, everything's been invented already how do we come up with new stuff these days?
Right.
But every once in a while, I'm like, I've never heard that before. And today was one of those topics. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. I guess some things that are there for me about conscious masculinity or consciousness. First of all, we just break it down, right? To me, consciousness implies maybe a conscious perspective that you're aware of more than just your meat suit. Like, I am Chris in this body, like that. There's an awareness. There's a spiritual component to being able to see that there is more than your narrative, or that there's something connected between the heart and the mind.
That, yeah, I said to a friend the other day, I was like, something bigger than me.
And I like that. Yeah.
Heart, mind, and whatever up there.
Yeah. Like that.
Beliefs and everything. It was actually a funny side note. This was somebody that I hadn't technically met yet, and I was texting back and forth, and she basically said, like, you seem super cool. I want to make sure our beliefs are in alignment. And I was like, oh, this is my, like, I love this kind of stuff, right? This is what I'm getting into. And but what she meant by that was strictly her religious belief. And it was basically, oh, well, if you don't believe what I believe, then sorry, I can't talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
And then I started challenging her, and I was like, well, do you feel your belief system is superior to mine? Because you don't even know what mine is yet, and you just told me.
Interesting.
Buzz off, kind of. And that we got in this, like, real crazy, it wasn't an argument, but it was a good deep conversation. And I was thinking to myself, like, this is good. This is somebody who I'm trying to get to know and work into that relationship or whatever. But in the end, it was just like, well, no, I don't think mine's superior. I just don't care what yours is and don't want to hear about it. I was like,
fair enough.
That's
wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that with that whole alignment we've talked about before.
Yeah.
Heart, mind, and spirit.
Yeah, I like that. There's something about the word consciousness that to me, or conscious, that implies that it covers over multiple spiritual perspectives. Like, I like that too. I like that it sort of implies that there are multiple narratives welcome here. Like, we're exploring the awareness of.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out if we can get, this is live. I think I have to press play on it to be able to see comment. So I don't want to blow something.
So when I'm asking, when we're saying,
I can hearing myself in double.
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
That's all right.
I'll have to. Oh, it's running now. I just muted it on my screen, so you can hear me still, right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be able to see comments or not, but that was my goal, was if somebody does leave
Oh, sure.
that we can interact, but whatever that
Yeah,
looks.
I think another thing I like about, and this is actually helpful to start unpacking consciousness and masculinity, but I think another thing that's there for me about consciousness is that if what we're doing is waking up or looking into an awareness, a connection to spirit, that it allows for us to not have all the answers all the time. And I think men for a long time have sort of been expected to have an answer, like don't talk unless you know what you're saying, or don't speak up unless you have done the work. And there's something about exploring what's next for us in consciousness that is a looking into and asking questions about, rather than pontificating answers for things that matter.
Yeah, we've both used it now, but you started it today when you said, and I always use the hand signal, so I'm going to do it again because it just makes sense in my brain. But you said wrestling with, and when I do this, it's because I am constantly wrestling with ideas in my head. And I also love when somebody presents an idea to me that I've never heard of, or that I haven't thought of, or that's just different than what I typically would know myself and what I do. Like, I like wrestling with those thoughts and trying to figure out, everything about it.
Yeah. Right.
A lot of that's I think a rare quality these days. From what I see, a lot of people are just like the woman I was just mentioning. Like, if you don't align with the way I see the world, then you're out of here.
Right.
And I was like, that's so unfair. And like, you're selling yourself short because, again, A, you don't even know my beliefs, and B, I mean, I don't know. I think that you're selling yourself short if you just don't want to listen to somebody else's frame of reference or frame of mind or whatever the world is.
I think that's not consciousness. I think that's unconscious.
Consciousness, right? Like, you're not not aware.
In that you have a predetermined idea of something. It's there's an unconscious thing running the show. You're not willing to even sit and listen and consider something else. You're unconsciously making some decisions about something without knowing without even listening for all the other, what the other person's thinking.
Yeah. It was funny to me because I could have told her in the end, when she was clear with what her beliefs were.
Yeah.
I almost did it just to see her reaction, but then I was like, yeah, I'm just wasting my time at this point. But she never even asked what my actual beliefs were. And I could have, again, gone through all of these questions and all of the conversations and been like, well, hey, I believe the same.
Yeah.
And I probably would have seen her mind explode because I was challenging her so much.
Right.
And I thought, I don't like playing mind games with that. It's like I said, it's a waste of my time, waste of her time at that point. But I like doing that when I'm in a group of people that are open to it and we are having a two-way conversation. And you and I do it all the time, where it's, we're talking about whatever the topic is, and you see it one way and I see it the other way. And it's like, well, here's why I see it this way. And being open to the other person saying, okay, cool. Well, here's why I see it this way. Like, there's always going to be something that I'm unaware of.
Yeah.
You can bring into the conversation. So that's the beauty of our group, right? Is we're wrestling with all of these topics.
Yeah. Right. Well, that would be an interesting thing to unpack a little bit here too, is the whole thing about masculinity. Like, that's that feels a little bit like a live wire. Like, I don't want to, it's tough to touch that conversation in today's environment. I think masculinity has come under a lot of heat, and rightfully so. I think there's a lot of chest beating and thumping and men being idiots. But I think, being a man, is that just about my anatomy? Is being a man about being the opposite of a woman? Like, what does that mean to be a man? And that's, again, I have more questions than I have answers, right?
Yeah.
My pronouns are definitely he and him. I definitely think I'm a man, right?
Yeah.
But what does that mean?
Reminds me of the movie. There's a movie called What is a Woman that's been making the rounds from whatever that it's like a private network, and I forget the guy's name, but anyway, it looks super interesting to me. I just don't watch a lot of TV or movies like that, but I might have to go find that one because it would be the exact opposite. They are posing the question, what is a woman?
Mm.
Where we are posing a question, well, what does it mean to be a man these days, other than just
Yeah.
the anatomy and the science or whatever. But and that's an interesting topic too, because somebody asked me, one of my female friends asked me the other day, what are we going to do in this group when somebody a transgender person wants to join the group? Because we're saying it's a men's group,
Right.
and I've made it clear why in past episodes. And just to touch on that again, it's because I am not, in my mind, I'm not qualified to give advice and to share feelings and life experiences with women. Like I barely understand women, like, to begin with. And so what gives me the right to give life advice and anything like that? And she's like, well, what are you going to do when a transgender person wants to join your group? And I was like, shit. I said, honestly, I'd rather just not know. I mean, that's
Sure.
kind of
Sure.
what, in my mind, I'm like, it's kind of a cop out almost, but it makes it awkward. It would make it awkward in the group. Guys don't want to share openly when there's a female around, or when there's somebody different than them around. Like, that's part of the community and part of the brotherhood and all of that stuff. That's a really, really sensitive topic though right now. And so, I was just like, hey, I'd honestly just rather not know, to avoid conflict, to avoid, I won't say to avoid a tough conversation, but I'd have to have a conversation and say, hey, this is a place where men are safe. I don't want to like exclude somebody, but I'm excluding women. So that's an interesting thing that we'll have to deal with, I'm sure.
I wonder if look, we just use the thing of like, who do you think you are, right? If you identify as a man, if your pronouns are he and him, we're in the same conversation. We're in the conversation of what does it mean then? What does masculinity even mean? Which, I mean, I suppose maybe a transgender person would have a ton of perspective on that, because they've probably done more thinking about that transition of identity more than I have. I was just born with the anatomy, so I sort of landed in the narrative.
Yeah, exactly.
They've had to actually make some conscious decisions or contemplations about what it is. But regardless, I see the space, the community as a group of people who are constructive in these kinds of conversations of like, what is consciousness? What is masculinity? And how do I orient my life to honor that and live out my purpose that way,
Yeah. It's I keep going back to that, but it's just a different way of thinking for me, because like you said, I was born into it. I was born into a military family where, going back to what you said earlier, it's like we speak when we're spoken to. This is how it is. It's just
right.
Drilled. I won't say beaten. It was never beaten into me, but it was
right. Yeah.
Ingrained into me.
Yeah.
This is what it means to be a man. This is what it takes to be a man. This is how you should act as a man. Right. But that's drastically different than a lot of my friends, to be honest. I mean, they didn't grow up with a stepdad that was a drill sergeant, and when they hear that and they hear some of the stuff that I did as a kid, or that I went through as a kid, they were like, Jesus, that's like borderline child abuse now. And I'm like, no, it was fine. It was a different time. And
yeah, right. It's one of the things is my wife did some work back in the day with a company called PAX, and they have a website called understandingmen.com. And I think also similarly, like when I read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, I read that book here in college, and I really identified with how some of the ways they described how men are versus how women are. I felt very seen, and I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Nobody ever taught me growing up, hey, you should try to fix people's problems. That was just natural for me. I'm like, hey, I know how to fix that. And then I got to college and women were like, don't try to fix my problem, just listen. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that's what you wanted from me. That's really interesting. But do you see, like, there was something hardwired as a man where I was already trying to find a solution to something. Nobody gave me that playbook.
Yep.
That just happened for me. And I think that's interesting. That's part of being a man for me.
Man, that just happened to me like 4 years ago for the first time, where
Hmm.
it was a little different. It was almost it was even more elevated because I was dating somebody and we worked at the same company, and
Hmm.
she doesn't like it when I say this. It's funny, but I was higher on the org chart, and my
Sure.
job at the company was usually to go around the country and help solve problems.
Hmm.
I did a lot of
Huh.
consulting for clients, and
Mhm.
I'd go fly to Texas or fly to Seattle or wherever and kind of help solve problems and then report back to the mothership on what that looked like.
Right.
So then she would come to me, as a girlfriend, and at the end of the day, work, we always say like, "Hey, how was work? Hey, how was work,
Yeah.
babe?
Right.
Work sucked. This is going on, and this and this and this," and I would just instantly, like, reactively, because this is how I was
Uh-huh.
wired, and
Right.
also my job. Here's what you need to do to solve that problem.
Right.
And then we would almost get into like arguments about it.
Mm.
And
Mm.
at one point, she just straight up said, "Look, we need to get better. When I come to you and I say,
Mm.
here's what's going on,
Yeah.
I want you to ask one question." And I was like, "Okay, what's that?" And she said, "Ask me, do you want advice as as Jeff from the employer's
Uh,
perspective,
uh-huh.
or boyfriend?
Uh-huh.
Am I we're talking work as a boyfriend or work as a
Hmm.
coworker?"
Hmm.
She goes, "If you ask that one question," she goes, "almost always going to say, as a boyfriend, I don't want that advice. I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to listen."
Hmm. Right.
What you said. And that was a kind of a crazy, like, mind-blowing light bulb moment right there, because I was like, that is not how we're wired. Like, I want to fix the problem and just go on
Yeah.
to the next happy moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that took a little work on my part.
There's some really interesting places to go in this conversation. I would imagine more in the community than in this, limited podcast episode, but the idea that I love talking about divine masculine and divine feminine versus wounded masculine, wounded feminine. Maybe and you think about that as energy, not man and woman. But if you think about, or you can think about that in yin and yang, right? Like that there are opposing or complementary forces that they're opposites. It's black, it's white. They're opposite. It's yin and yang. And it's interesting to me that there is when you start to look into the relationship between feminine energy, which is creative, it's nurturing, it's life-giving, it's flowy, and then you think about masculine energy, which is very rigid, it has sharp lines, it's mechanical, and you think about how those two things operate. I mean, it's interesting to me how we got into a this could go so many directions. So I'm thinking about, I'm like, because I sort of am of the belief that the masculine serves the feminine, that the feminine is where life comes from, and the masculine can take that and move it in direction, like can shape it, can execute on it, can build a system around it, can build scaffolding around it. But I think what happened in society was we got so lopsided in production. We're such a production crazed society that we choked out the feminine life-giving side of things, where wisdom and intuition and spirituality come from, in the name of hitting quarter over quarter returns. Let's have a better year this year. And I think we could adjust ourselves as men to be, or in the masculine, to be more in service of and in partnership with the feminine. But we got a lot of conversation to have before that I think we start to get comfortable with that.
Yeah, and I mean, it comes down to kind of the overall thought of this whole community is like living our best lives, right? Like, my best life is not to be lived trying to, this might sound contradictory. I said I can't talk today, Jesus. But I don't want to live my life always thinking I'm trying to beat my quotas that I did last month or last quarter or last year.
Right.
However, I'm going to totally contradict myself right here and say, but living my best life is constantly striving to be better. What that better is the core element here, that better isn't necessarily making more money every year, even
Sure.
though most of us want to, and we almost have to.
Right.
It isn't, that better life isn't hitting my sales goals. It all ties together. That's the hard part, is like it all ties together. But going back to the nurturing and the more of what I call like the woo-woo feely good stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That is what I'm talking about with my best life. Like I want that balance where
Mm.
my job is awesome. I love what I'm doing. I'm making enough money that I
Mm.
can feel that and feel good about my life and
Yep.
live my best life.
Mm.
And I'm healthy, wealthy. I got a good
Yeah.
mindset. My relationships are awesome.
It's good.
That part of the femininity is what most of us are missing.
That's good, man. I appreciate that. I think we had this conversation probably a month or more ago, just that I think inside the community, the Lumen Project, how much what masculinity is plays a role of this community. It may not even be that important, like that it's a community for men to safely process the questions we have about living our best life, without having to flex or posture or be something we're not, just coming with our honest questions, so that we can live our best life, not so that I can be more manly. Like, that's a difference between I'm going to live my best life as a man versus I'm going to be more manly. That's being more manly is not the conversation here. I think we've done that a ton in the society, and that's not what we're trying to perpetuate. But being a man comes with its own questions and narratives we're born into to go, how do I live my best life? And so that it's not just the pattern being perpetuated,
Yeah. And my thought on that was immediately, we've been brainwashed, if you will, over the last, especially 20, 30 years to live this, might even be before that. Because the first example that I thought was something from the 70s, maybe. So what am I, 45? I don't know, the Marlboro Man, like he was around mostly in the 70s. But anyway,
oh, sure. Yeah.
thought process was that we've been being kind of almost brainwashed into, in order to be a real man, you have to be kind of this like lone wolf type character. And we've got like I said, the initial one that came to my mind, the very first one that I thought of from my childhood was like the Marlboro Man. He was out on the range with his horse and his thoughts and his cigarettes. Now we've got, James Bond and Jason Bourne and all of the like lone wolf type badass men.
Yep.
So that's kind of something that I wrestle with all the time. It's like being manly to me doesn't mean going at it alone. That's one of the hardest things, actually. Every struggle that I've ever had, I've been super fortunate to have a group of people around me, even if it's a small group, and even if it's just one other fucking person. Wrestling with my thoughts in my head, because that's a very dangerous place for me to be, in my own little head. But that's the beauty of a community, is you don't have to do it alone, and you've got other people that are going through similar things or have gone through similar things that can give ideas and share experiences and all of that. And that to me is I want to say the new real man. The new real man is going to be somebody that's able to do that.
It's going to be the conscious man. The new real man is the conscious man.
Conscious man.
The conscious man.
Yeah.
But I mean, isn't that right? Because it's bringing the best of wisdom to the conversation of being appropriate in how you're, like, be who you are, honor who you are, but be real about who you are. I just think the whole conversation of masculinity has gotten, over the years, like you said, is just brainwashed. It's just become a whole thing that isn't true to anyone's experience. It's a archetype, and it's not even a real one. The Marlboro Man is not a real thing.
Yeah, none
that's
of
marketing. That's a billboard
that I used were real. If I had to think of like the lone wolf character, like somebody in my life that fits that mold, can't think of any, to be honest. Like I might be as close to that. I work from home. I'm at home all the time. I'm a lone wolf in the sense of career and doing that. But like when it comes to community and friends and all of that, like I don't know any of those like crazy badass lone wolf men. Like they don't really exist. Right. And it's people trying to portray that they're like that. They're the alpha man and they're badass and
Yeah.
like that's just fake.
Yeah.
Me,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I can feel if I were, this feels like a good place to sort of wrap the conversation. I feel like there is who this community is for, the Lumen Project. You know, men who realize they want to be surrounded by other men in this conversation, that it's not you're looking for a savior. You're not looking, you know, you're not looking for an alpha male to follow. Like you and I are, I think, are tired of alpha culture. We don't need that. What we want are conscientious and conscious human beings,
Real men.
right? Real
Men.
men willing to be real about their questions, their pursuits, their purpose. What are they trying to accomplish in this life, and walk that home with each other.
Yep. Well said.
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say on that note.
Yeah, exactly.
The website, we've got the podcast. You know, this is our first live that we've done on Facebook, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We are recording it as a podcast, so we've got podcasts on Apple and Spotify and Google and all the places. And then the website is thelumenproject.com. So visit that, check it out.
Exactly. Yeah. Good stuff. Awesome. Well, Jeff, yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see what else we choose to talk about in the podcast. Make sure to follow along, and until then, we'll see you.
Yep. See you guys.